All right, we are live. I keep saying live, but it's a recording. But another episode of the of the Edlow podcast. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Uh, I know I say every single time I'm super excited about this one because every guest I have is awesome, but this is no different. I have Bruno Lauer. If you are a wrestling fan, know him as the one and only Harvey Wippleman, Downtown Bruno. He is all over. Uh, he's been all over wrestling. He's been all over the territories. He was in the WWF, now WWE, and now still kicking in the indie scene.
No, well, I'm still a member of the WWE. I'm on a Legends deal, so I'm
Right.
still actually I'm the longest tenured talent in the history of the WWE because I've been there for over 36 years. Uh,
Wow.
Never left, never will leave. It's my home. But yeah, I do things on the indie circuit when it's convenient. I don't really uh, like to fly. Sometimes I do, but mostly if I can, like I get like this coming weekend. Well, I'm not sure when this airs, but just basically, I'm going to Coralsville, Missouri, which is about 110 miles from here. I go to Dyersburg, Tennessee, on a regular basis. I go to Arkansas towns, Mississippi towns, uh, and occasionally I'll go a little further. I don't mind driving. I'll take it 2 days ahead. I drove to Ohio. I drove to Pennsylvania. So yeah, I do a lot of different events for a lot of different promotions. And I'm not saying I wouldn't fly, like, if somebody wanted me to come, like, for example, to Sacramento, like we mentioned
Yeah.
before we went on there. I'm not gonna drive to Sacramento from Mississippi, but, and basically, like, if we go to New York, Jersey, or whatever, I'll fly. But yeah, I still do a lot. I do signings. I'll still sometimes they have me managing a bad guy or something, but I don't really care to manage anymore because I'm not good as I used to be, and I don't want people to say, "Oh, look at that guy, he used to be good." I do what I call ha-ha refereeing. I'll get in there and I'll favor the good guy, like, very blatantly, and I'll, screw over the bad guy very blatantly, and the people get with it. If the bad guy, the heel, knows how to work properly and adapt to what I'm doing and react to what I do, then it really gets over. So it's up to the people I'm working with to figure out how to react. Like when I won't count when he's got the guy covered, and I count real fast when the good guy's got him covered, whatever. So basically, if anybody wants me to come, it's really entertaining when I do the ha-ha referee, and I love it.
I got to ask you, as somebody who's been to every level of this business, how often do you run into on the indie scene a guy like you just mentioned? Hopefully, he knows how to work and he knows how to react. How often is it that you run into somebody who really doesn't know?
More than you'd be surprised, more often than you would believe.
I actually don't think I would be surprised. It's,
Well,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I trained with a guy named Oliver John. I don't know if you know who he was. He worked at the WWE for a little bit, and then I worked with Johnny Jeter, trained with him. Johnny Jeter was with the Spirit Squad with the
right, right, right.
2000s, and both of them are A-plus guys, and I got trained the right way. But now it just seems like there's a school on every corner. Anyone can buy a wrestling ring, and, so a lot of guys aren't getting trained that well. So when you go to indie places, you go to indie spots, do you try to kinda mentor some of these guys, or how does
Oh,
that work for you?
absolutely, absolutely. Let me tell you, um, certain places I go, like Pro Wrestling Mid South out of Dyersburg, Tennessee.
Mhm.
Okay, uh, this past weekend I was at CCW out of Harrisburg area, Pennsylvania. I think both of those promotions, and not only those promotions, just for example, in Boonville, Mississippi, EPW, they want to sit under the learning tree with me, and they asked me to watch their match. I watch their match, and I tell them what they did right, what I think they should have done differently, and they absorb it. They listen. They ask questions. These people, I would help them all day long. There's two words that I don't ever, ever, ever want to hear from a guy that I'm giving advice to, and those two words are, "Yeah, but."
Mm.
Okay. If I say, "Oh, you should have did this," yeah, but no, not yeah, but. I don't mind you asking a question all day long. If I say, "Hey, you shouldn't have did this," oh, okay, sir. Well, why is that? Man, I'll answer that all day long. You're wanting to learn, but the yeah, but don't work with me because that means you know more than me. If I tell you something, I'm not just wanting to hear the sound of my own voice. I hear enough of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, after 47 years, if I don't understand every aspect of this profession by now, I've been doing something wrong since 1979. So when I tell somebody something, it's for a reason. I know what I'm talking about. Not because I'm such a smart guy. I had some very, very good teachers over the years, Jerry the King Lawler and Rocky Johnson, Bob Geigel, Robert Fuller, Bullet Bob Armstrong. That's just to name a few. That's the tip of the iceberg. Jerry Jarrett, Eddie Marlin. I mean, Rip Rogers. I mean, guys that really know what they're doing. Pat Patterson. You know, so believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying it to brag. I know what I'm talking about. So please, if I tell you something, believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I've been taught by the best, and I try
Yeah.
to consider myself halfway intelligent. So, I don't know too much about nothing. I know how to change a tool and handle. I know how to cut grass, and I know how to change a tire, and I know professional wrestling.
Yeah, I know that you got started by going to an indie show at a circus, right? That's where you first started running into it?
Yeah, but basically what happened was, hope you don't mind, I always eat
That's
chicken
okay.
wings when I'm doing
That's
um,
alright.
yeah, there was a guy named Dale Mann who ran a promotion out of Jamestown, Kentucky called Mid-Continental Wrestling. Um, it was right around the time of that Memphis wrestling was hotter than a $2 pistol, and the time that ICW, Randy Savage, the Pothos company, was uh, going, as well, in more or less the same vicinity. A guy named Dale Mann, who was a great guy. God bless him. He's not with us anymore. Excuse me. He was a great guy. And I happened on it. I didn't intentionally go. I was at this fair. It was actually a carnival type thing, a fair, not a circus. But they did have the tent set up for the wrestling at the fair. So I walked in there to watch it. Because I didn't have no money. I was 14 years old, and I was just walking around. And the guy at the, not door, because it was a tent, but like the flap or whatever where you walked into the tent, said, "We're sorry that this is not included in the fare. If you want to come in and watch the matches, you got to pay $5." Well, I didn't have $5. I mean, I didn't have anything. But one guy that worked for the Mid-Continental Wrestling, worked for Dale Mann, said, "I'll tell you, I'll make you a deal. If you stay and help us take down the ring and put it on the ring truck or ring trailer after the event, we'll let you come in." I took him up on it, and I've been in the wrestling business ever since.
Man, what was it about the wrestling business that drew you in?
To be 100% honest with you, getting paid. I was getting like 10 or $15, believe me. Um, I was born in West Virginia and lived my whole life after that in Mississippi, where my family's from, and I live here to this day, just south of Memphis. And the only thing that we in Mississippi like about West Virginia is it keeps us from being dead last in all the statistics. so, so believe me, I had no money, and I was getting paid $5, $10, $15, plus giving me something to eat.
Mm.
I mean, I thought I hit the jackpot, and now it is 47 years later. Uh, I'm on a Legends deal with WWE. I've been with WWE for damn near 40 years. I've been in the business 47 years. I got a house paid for. I've got 3 vehicles. One of them was given to me by my brother from another mother, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I mean, my life has been like a fairy tale. I mean, don't get me wrong, wrestling has been, some days I wake up in the morning hating the business and go to bed loving it, and vice versa. There's been some bad days, trust me, there's been some bad years. 1988, if I wasn't a Christian man, I'd have probably blew my own self away. That's how bad 1988 was. But you know what? God Almighty Jesus protected me, put me in this business, and I'm doing well. So, uh, and my health is good, and the business has been good to me, and so I'm satisfied with where I ended up in life.
What was it about 1988 that was so bad?
That was the worst year I ever had in my career. Um, I wasn't hardly making any money. I wasn't being used very well. Um, I still drink my beer. That's the only thing I got. I don't use drugs. I don't smoke weed. I don't whatever. I drink my beer. But back then, I ain't gonna lie, I had a problem. I drank too much at the wrong times. I got a couple DUIs.
Mm.
Went to the can. Went to the penal farm, which is the county jail in Memphis, for 45 days.
Mm.
Because I had my first DUI, crashed my car. the first DUI, I don't know how it is now, but back in the 80s, your first DUI, you do 48 hours in jail, you're on probation. You have to go to these classes where they show you videos of, people that were maimed and crippled or whatever from drunk drivers. They scare you straight. So my car was crashed. I hadn't had it fixed yet. My dear departed friend, Eddie Gilbert, let me borrow his car while my car was being repaired. I was still on probation for my first DUI, not even probation. I hadn't even been to court yet. I'm sorry. I was still out on bond for my first DUI. And I thought it'd be a great idea to get my second one in Eddie Gilbert's car. So this is my second DUI. I hadn't even, finished the first case yet. So they could have did a lot worse. They could have gave me 120 days. They gave me 45 days in the penal farm out in East Memphis. So I'm in jail. I call Eddie Gilbert. I said, Eddie, they done impounded your car and I'm in jail. He goes, where are you at really? I said, Eddie, I'm telling you, I'm in jail. See, there wasn't no caller ID or nothing back then, so he couldn't tell, And then he hears in the background, number 4, closed door. Then he knew I wasn't kidding. And him and Doug, his brother Doug, is my dear friend to this day as well, came and got me out of jail. I thought Eddie was going to kill me, but he didn't. He was understanding. We got his car out of impound. I didn't crash his car. It just got impounded. I wasn't making any money. And then business was way down in Memphis at that time too, way down. And they were using other managers better than me. And things were just rough. It was, it was 5-6 days a week territory. I was only working like 4 days a week. I was averaging like sometimes not even $200 a week. It was really bad in '88, but things got better after that. I left and went back to Alabama for a while. I went to Louisiana. It was after Bill Watts closed. I went and worked for Grizz. Jake Roberts' dad was running him and Jack Curtis and Jerry Stubbs were booked in the territory in Louisiana. I worked there for a while, and I straightened up. No more DUIs. Got healthy. Quit smoking cigarettes, which I wouldn't smoke a cigarette now if you gave me $1,000. Lawler says, "You ready to come home?" I said, "Yes." Brought me back to Memphis in '89. Started using me really, really well again. Things went back to good and stayed there right up until I went to WWF.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, '88 was a rough year, but the good Lord Jesus protected me. They said that the good Lord takes care of idiots and babies. Well, I wasn't a baby no more at that time because I was 23 years old, but good Lord took care of me. So here I sit eating chicken wings and talking to a new friend I just met on the Edlow podcast.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, man, that's an interesting story, and what I wanna know is you had that year in '88 and things got better for you. Obviously, dark times. What would be your message to somebody who maybe they're having dark times? What would be your message to them?
I keep this on my desk. I'm sitting on my desk in my house. I don't know if you can see this or not. Yeah, you can, I think.
Yeah.
Can you read that?
Yeah, this too shall pass. That's right.
Yes. That's the truth. That's my message. That's it. Because I mean, back when they were telling me, okay, you got to report to the penal farm for 45 days, I thought my life was over. I was ready to jump off the new bridge in Memphis or whatever. I was that bad off. I really. And looking back now, this too shall pass is true. It's not even, a factor anymore. It's done and over with. And anytime something happens in life that ain't going my way, I realize now this too shall pass. And now I'll tell you who told me that saying, and then I found that little plaque and I bought it. Who told me that saying was Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so you've gotten to work with some of the greatest of all time. Of all the places you worked other than, let's say, WWF, where was your favorite place to work? Was it Memphis?
Oh, absolutely. Memphis is my home.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something, honest to God. Back in the early to mid 80s, before, cable TV took over and, things all changed all throughout the industry. Back, as I'm sure you're aware, there was only wrestling you could see is in your local areas, the territories, we used to call it. So they didn't know about Ric Flair. They didn't know about Dusty Rhodes. They didn't know. They just knew Memphis wrestling. It's only wrestling they seen. I'm telling you right now, and I'm not saying it because I'm so great. I'm saying the TV was so strong and so powerful in Memphis. honest to God, I couldn't go anywhere without being surrounded by the mob. Sometimes at restaurants, they'd have to put me back in the employees' dining room because I couldn't. I mean, that's God's honest truth. And again, I hope everybody listening understands. I'm not saying, oh, because I'm so great. And when I say this, on a local level around Memphis, I know for real what like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt or whatever go through on a worldwide basis because they're huge, huge stars. Well, back in those days in Memphis, that's how it was. For, not just for me, anybody that was on the Memphis TV. Memphis TV back in the 80s, we had higher ratings than the hottest shows on TV, higher ratings than the Cosby Show, Cheers, MASH. What do you know? All the shows back in those days that were hot shows. We had double and triple the ratings of like Roseanne or whatever. That's how hot Memphis TV was here in Memphis. And that's God's honest truth. And it's just, I can't even explain what it was like to walk through the mall of Memphis. And because I had to pick up something or whatever, and people just surround me. It was unreal. Back, I was making money. I was young. I was famous in my own little fishbowl, you know, but back then, that was back in 85, 86, 87, 88. I hit rock bottom for a while in many ways, career wise, financially wise, personal wise, but I got through it. It passed. This too shall pass, and it did. And after that, everything's been, I mean, there's been some bumps in the road for all of us.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not our own fault, but it happens. But by and large, the vast majority of my career after that has been just fine.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned something, and I want, as I mentioned, this is I do a lot of wrestling podcasts because I love the business, but a lot of my listeners are not wrestling fans. You mentioned The Rock giving you a car, and I just love that story so much. Can you, for those who maybe don't know, what your connection to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is and what happened with that?
Well, Rocky Johnson, who, for those that ain't wrestling fans, is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's dad. Rocky Johnson no longer with us. God bless him too. He was like a surrogate father to me. We were very, very close. And Dwayne's mother, the lovely Atta, who thankfully is still with us and hope she will be for a long, long time to come, surrogate mother to me. I was working in the Kansas City territory years and years ago. I think it was 1983. And Bob Geigel, who was a great guy, once again, God bless him. I was managing him, but he wasn't using me to my full capacity. Like when I was with Dale Mann, I was running around the ring and jumping over the top rope, which I could do back then. I was very agile. I was entertaining. Bob Geigel, which is his right. It was his company, but he was very old school. He just wanted the manager to stand there like this and not do anything and, do the interview. Then maybe if I had one spot in the match where I tripped a guy or something, just go back and stand there. Well, that wasn't me. And Rocky knew that. So Rocky says, man, I'm getting ready to go back to work for my in-laws, my Vias in Honolulu territory, Polynesian Pacific. How'd you like to come? Where I was basically a teenager in Kansas City, which is not against Kansas City, but it's not exactly Beverly Hills. Rocky wants me to come to Honolulu. Oh, hell yeah, I went. And so we were very, he brought me over there, used me well. I learned the business even more, worked with a lot of major people over there. Honolulu had a lot of great guys come in and out. I mean, a lot. Worked with Kevin Sullivan. I worked with Rocky. I worked with Jimmy Snuka. I worked with Ron Slinker. I worked with Lars Anderson. I mean, you name it. And then that's how me and Rocky became super, super close. And then Lawler brought me in for my first break in his big break when he brought me to Memphis for that big run I was just telling you about. Then Rocky came over for a run in Memphis after things, didn't work out the way he would like them to in Hawaii or whatever. And he says, you mind if my son stays with you? Because Rocky had other things on his agenda, which it's not for me to say, but whatever. And I said, yeah. Dwayne was like 13 or 14 or whatever. And I always say, well, people say, oh, you let him live with you. No, I didn't let anything. We lived together because we were family and still are. And we spent most of 1987 together, living together. And we just became super, super close, very close. We remained all them years. And then we just broke into business, same thing. He came down to Walls, Mississippi, where I live, and once again, we lived together. And just so happened it was my place, but that don't matter if it had been his place, and I needed a place to stay. He'd let me stay there. So we've been ever since he was like 13 or 14, and now he's like 52, I think, or 53. So we go back 40 years, family,
Yeah.
and we stay in touch. He texts me at least once or twice a week, and I do the same. And and we're family. We're not friends. We're family.
Yeah. So you mentioned, the truck. Tell us how that came about.
Well, in '87, I bought him his first vehicle, cheap old uh, Thunderbird, downtown Nashville at Lower Broadway, which now Lower Broadway is all uh, gentrified. You know, it's got your Planet Hollywood or whatever, your Coyote Ugly or Hooters. Whatever. Back then, it was when you get ready to go into a bear joint down to check you for weapons. If you didn't have one, they gave you one. You know, that's how bad it was. It was a the roughest part of Nashville. I mean, if you ever want to commit suicide and you're scared to do it yourself, just go down there and have a couple of $20 bills hanging out of your pocket. You'll get killed. Yeah, that's how it was back then, you know.
Right.
So naturally, that's where me and Dwayne were hanging out, you know. And some bums had this nasty, awful car that looked like something you'd take up to Lazarus. Well, you wouldn't know Lazarus. It's the junkyard in Memphis. That's what it looked like. And the guy goes, I want to sell this car, man. I just want $80. That's all I want for it. It's $80. Bear in mind, this is 40 years ago. I said, hell no, we ain't buying. Look at that. It's a piece of you know, and Dwayne goes, no, please, please, Bruno, get me that. I don't have any money. How much money you got on you? I looked in my pocket. I had $40. The guy goes, I'll take the 40. I'll take that. Will you meet me back here tomorrow? Give me the other 40. And we looked at each other, me and Dwayne. Oh yeah. You know, no one wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I got him that car, and it was a junky car. It didn't last long, believe me. But he wanted it. That was his first car. And then, well, I'll just be damned if whatever, how many years later, 40, whatever, I'm the worst with it. We were on the set of Young Rock. That was the season we were filming in Atlanta at the studios down there. And we were doing an interview together about our old days together, this, that, and the other. And here come this truck right behind us. I said, oh, crap. Now we're going to do the whole interview over because it ruined the shot or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
A little did I know that was the whole basis of the interview, to give me the truck. I mean, I'm brand new 2020 Ford F-150. I just drove it today. I just drive it once a week. When I go out of town, I rent a car. When I'm driving around town, just my normal activities, I take my Dodge. I call my work truck. You know, I just drive it around. But once a week, I drive my Dwayne truck. I call it my Dwayne truck. You know,
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me now, you get from Memphis and you finally get to the WWF. How did that come about?
What happened was, at that time, they were using a lot of managers. Damn near every bad guy in the WWF had a manager, and they they were wanting to get another manager up there. So Sid was up there, who was my really good friend. I'm the one who got him his first job in the business too, by the way. Sid said, what about Downtown Bruno in Memphis? At that time, I'd already been in the business like 10, 11 years. So I never had heat with anybody. I was got along with everybody, because when people came through Memphis or any of the other territories I was at, Alabama, Louisiana, wherever, Kansas City, I was nice to everyone. I always helped guys. So everybody said, oh yeah, we know Downtown Bruno. He's good. Oh yeah, he's good. Everybody. So they brought me in, met Vince McMahon. My first day is in Worcester, Massachusetts, near Boston. And Howard Finkel had called me and asked me was I interested in coming up there for a tryout and everything. And the funny thing is, I was in charge of the rings in USWA, which was Memphis Wrestling.
Mhm.
Um, and I had my own ring crew, and I refereed the matches where I brought the ring to all the spot shows. And I told Lawler, I says, "Well, WWF called me. They want me to come up there and see about working." I said, "But I don't know. I think I'm going to maybe turn them down because what if they don't use me? And I got a good gig here now. I finally got secure. I'm in charge of the rings." And Lawler goes, "You mean to tell me WWF called you and you're going to stay here and put up the ring with Chili Willie and Fat Raymond?" That was my crew. And I said, "Well, yeah." He goes, "You're fired." I said, "What if I get up there and they decide they don't want to use me?" He goes, "Well, I'll let you put in an application."
Nice.
So I went up to my tryout in Worcester, Massachusetts, and Vince said, "I want you to go out there, do an interview with Gene Okerlund in the dark." And for people who don't know what that means, it doesn't mean all the lights were out. It means it's not being shown on TV. It's just for the audience. Vince wanted to see how I could interact with me and Gene and what kind of reaction I could get from the audience. And Vince says, "Show me something I've never seen a heel manager do before. Show me something different." So I get out there and I'm going back and forth with Mean Gene. And I'm like, "Well, I hate it up here in the North. All these Northerners, you're from the North too, ain't you, Gene? Well, I think the North sucks. I don't remember, the cheap heat type thing,
Right.
He goes, "Well, up here in the North, we don't really care for people from Mississippi." Of course, he would never do it on TV because, it's, but just for that audience to get over. So what did I do? I reached over and I slapped the piss out of him. Vince told me do something that he ain't seen before. Well, that's what I did. So we got in the back. Everybody was just looking at me. Nobody said nothing. Vince looked at me and he had his glasses. He put his glasses down. He goes, "I didn't care for the slap." I said, "Oh, here we go. Here he goes. I didn't care for it because you didn't lay it in enough." He goes, he says, "When Gene gets back through the curtain, I'm going to act like I'm, fussing at you for slapping him." He goes, "I want you to do the same thing tomorrow night in Portland, Maine, but lay it in." So, and then I did. And I ain't gonna lie, I wised up Gene to it. I probably shouldn't have, but they can't retroactively fire me after 40 years. So, so um, and nobody said nothing. Then I got home and there was my first of ongoing contracts with WWF. With F at the time, so that was a slap heard around my world, evidently.
Yeah, wow. Well, so now what do you think it is about you? Why is it that you've been able to maintain a 35, 40-year, contract extension is pretty unheard of in the wrestling business. Why you versus anybody else?
Well, first of all, I've always done what I'm asked to do without giving anybody any problems. I'm not a complainer. I'm not on drugs. I don't cause problems. And the other thing is, from Stone Cold to The Rock to Sid to anybody, when they were making zero money and they were barely surviving the business, I was always there for them. I was good to them. Like when Stone Cold was in Memphis, wasn't making any money. I was in charge of the rings. I'd make sure he got to the building early so he didn't have to get a hotel room. And they would shower up in the dressing room, that area at the arena in Memphis. And when I would go get the food for the Chili Willie and Raymond, my ring crew, and I will always bring him something to eat, and, things like that.
Mm.
So everybody always, luckily, treated me with the same respect I gave them because those who want respect uh, get respect if they give respect. So, and another thing is, I was in a car accident July 4th, 1994 with Joey Marella where he got killed. And only a miracle of the good Lord Jesus, I didn't get killed when he fell asleep at the wheel. Now, these guys nowadays, I ain't going to mention any names, but they get a hang there. They want to take 6 months off. They got to go to physical therapy and rehab. And they're going to go on Geraldo Rivera or, back then, Sally Jesse Raphael or whatever and cry, "Oh, the business is not fair. And, oh, look at me. I'm scarred for life." I was in a car wreck where the guy got basically beheaded next to me. A miracle I didn't get killed. And guess what? You know how many days of work I missed? 0. I was back the very next week. And Vince told me I can take all the time I wanted. And I did take all the time I wanted, which is none. I came right back to work.
Wow. Now,
Oh,
that's a great segue into that incident because, you know, I know that Joey Marella, assuming you were close to him, and of course, Gorilla Monsoon's his dad, you're close to him. Um, Walk me through the decision to keep working when that happened, when many other people would probably take some time off.
well, the first thing is, even though I was told I was allowed to take all the time off I needed, sitting home by myself with my thoughts was not going to be a good thing after going through something like that. I mean, I'm back to work, and I was still a bad guy manager at the time before I took on my behind the scenes role. So um, it was therapeutic to do that. I wanted to see Gino Gorilla,
Mhm,
and he was the on-screen president, of WWF at the time.
mhm,
So when I did my first interaction with him, of course I seen him in the back. We hugged up, and you know, you know, we're very emotional. But whenever he said, "Okay, Harvey Wippleman," blah blah blah, I said, "Let me tell you, you big fat jerk." Boom! It was like, okay, we crossed that bridge, we broke the ice. Let's get back to normal. And it was a big help. And I mean, everybody was so supportive, hugging me. Luna Vachon was hysterical because me and her were extremely close.
mhm.
And and honestly, since we're just sitting under the honesty tree here, Joey and I were really not close at all. That's the first time we ever rode together. I mean, I have nothing against him. I'm not talking ill of him, but
Mhm,
he just didn't have a ride. And he talked
mhm,
me into staying all the way to the end and giving him a ride. Well, if I'd have said no, maybe he'd have still been alive. So I can't go back and second guess myself because I didn't want to wait all the way to the end. I was through after like the second match. But oh,
mm,
dude, I don't have no way back, dude. Please, you get with the dude. Okay, Yoey, damn. I waited all night for him. I said, and he had to referee the main event. I said, as soon as you're through, let's get the hell out of here so quick. People are going to think we stole something. So I'm
mm,
waiting for him and waiting for him and waiting. I look up and he's upstairs playing cards with somebody. I said, what the?
mm,
I was furious.
mm,
And then he says, well, don't worry, dude. I'll drive, dude. I'm sorry, dude. If I hadn't let him drive, this wouldn't have happened. But
yeah,
like Gorilla said, Gorilla told me himself, evidently God wanted a right-hander, which is the referee, and not a manager at the time. And that's what Gorilla said, and that meant a lot to me.
yeah. Do you, that's obviously a very traumatic event, being in a car when someone, even with you work with, dies and you pass on. Do you ever feel any sort of what some people have referred to as, like, survivor's guilt or anything like that? Do you think about that?
No, like I said, the couple things I said to you, like, well, if this would have happened, if I had did this, no. Now, the survivor's guilt would have been if he'd have said, "I don't want to drive, I'm tired." I don't care, you're driving. Then I would feel bad. You know what I mean? Something
Yeah,
along those
yeah,
lines.
sure.
But I mean, I didn't. Obviously, I knew he was going to fall asleep at the wheel and get killed. I wouldn't have. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
no, I mean, I hate that it happened. It's just but no, because I didn't do anything to cause it. If it was something I did to cause it, or if we were drinking, which we weren't, but if we were drinking and I let him drink and drive and that happened, okay, then I would feel. But it's just one of those things that happen. I mean,
yeah,
I wish I could go backwards in time and say, no, Joey, you're gonna have to find your own way. Go with somebody else or something. But who would have knew?
yeah, nobody. Well,
Not yeah.
so
Not, what if I
so
would have said no and I left? Then somebody told me later, yeah, Joey Marella got killed driving back to Newark. You know what I mean? Anything could happen. Thank
yeah,
God, thank God I survived. God bless Joey. I hate that he didn't. I hate that he didn't.
yeah. So now you've over the course of your career, you had an opportunity to manage a lot of different wrestlers, and you had a lot of cool things. We talked off air about how I was a kid at the Arco Arena when you and Giant Gonzalez came out and demolished The Undertaker during the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Um, Out of all the people that you let's start with out of all the people you managed, Who would you say was the hardest to work with?
You're talking about in WWE, of course, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Bertha Faye, without a doubt.
Who is that?
Bertha Faye,
Oh, okay. Okay, and why?
the she was a know-it-all. She was argumentative. She talked constantly, but didn't listen.
Mm,
She had a severe drinking problem. She would drink all day where she couldn't even perform. You ask Alundra Blaze, Medusa Michelli, she'll tell you she had to work the matches around where she would just chase me around and stuff because Bertha Faye was too inebriated to
mm,
perform properly. And she was couldn't drive, so I had to drive her around. She had the worst hygiene of anybody I was ever around. I mean, literally, she smelled like a billy goat. She's dead. I've heard she committed suicide. I'm sorry. I don't wish her or anybody else did. Don't
mhm,
ever anybody misconstrue that.
right.
But she was just somebody I just couldn't hardly work with. It was just, I had zero fun with her.
Let me ask you with the concept of a manager. There were some managers, like the best example I can think of is Paul Ellering, where he was managing the Road Warriors, but he was literally managing the Road Warriors like the whole
Like,
time on the road. And then you had guys like Bobby Heenan, who in their view, they were kinda like, "Look, I'm your manager for 15 minutes out there. After that, you're kinda on your own." Where were you on that spectrum as far as managing the guys and gals that you're working with?
well, mostly I was like the Heenan thing. Yeah, for the 15 minutes we're out there and that's it. Except for Gonzalez.
Mm,
I was his everything. You know what I mean? I would
mhm,
go get him his food. I would go get him his prescriptions. Um, I would take his clothes to the wash and wash it for him. You know, because he was 8 foot tall, legit, with
yeah,
shoes on. Okay, he can't just go to the Burger King and get in line. You know, whatever. You know,
sure.
he could, and he can't go wash. And you know what I mean? I had to do all the things, which I loved him.
Mhm,
I was more than happy to do that.
mhm,
Trust me, no complaints whatsoever. Great guy, dear friend of mine. Um, but yeah, I was like, don't want to say manager. I had no financial interest. You know, I didn't get a percentage of his salary or nothing. But I'm
sure.
saying, as far as being his caretaker, I guess would be the best way to put it. Yeah,
Mhm,
you name it. Whatever he needed, I took care of, and I was glad to do it.
mhm. So, when they told you I mean, I assume that they put you with Giant Gonzalez because they knew you'd take care of him, but when they told you, "Hey, he's coming through," I think he was Elegante in the WCW before he come up.
Correct.
When did had you ever met him before he came to the WWF?
No, never met him. Never met him. But we got along right away. We
Yeah.
instantly, you know. No, I'd never met him before, but he spoke English with a, you know, obviously a very uh Argentinian accent, but he spoke perfect English.
Mhm.
We got along good. We laughed and kind of he didn't drink or nothing. Um, he was severely diabetic, so I don't think you're supposed to drink, but he didn't anyway.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, I wouldn't drink and drive. Those days were way over with. So unless we were like in a town, I never drank in a daytime anyway. But if like we had a day off in between towns, we'd hang out in the hotel room together. And in the evening, I'd drink beer while he drank his Diet Coke and smoked his cigarettes. He loved them Marlboro Lights. And we hung around. He was really a super guy. Really was. It broke my heart when his health failed, and then we finally lost him. It broke my heart.
Yeah. Now, mm, we've you've you might have heard, I'm sure, and that you were there, so you recognize The Undertaker has said he was just really hard to work with in the ring. Do you account that to his size or a language barrier, or do you think it was just some guys don't get it? I mean, he was so big, he was such a spectacle. I remember when he came out and the whole crowd was, like, shocked,
Right.
um, and so walk me through, like, working with him in the ring, how that kinda worked.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, it had nothing to do with the language barrier.
Mm,
Um, and once again, I'm having to be honest here. So yeah, he was my dear friend. So it ain't like this guy I didn't like. He just had nothing to do with, I don't think in general, even his size. He just wasn't very coordinated or very talented or very athletic. Unfortunately, he was strictly a attraction due to his size. But
Mhm.
that's why, they brought him in to play for the Atlanta Hawks and it didn't work out. So then they had him under contract. That's why they put him into wrestling. Um,
Mhm.
and once again, I can't stress enough what a close friend I was with him, but he just he didn't have it. If I mean, he didn't intentionally hurt Undertaker, hit him in the wrong place and too hard or whatever. But I mean, he just didn't have it. Just like certain people don't have talent to do whatever, and he just didn't have it. He was all what's the old saying? All hat, no horse.
Yeah. Is there somebody we talked about who we've talked about Giant Gonzalez, we talked about the worst person that you managed, like the worst, experience you had, but was there somebody who you say was just the best person for you to work with?
Well, I didn't. I always you talking about people I managed or just in
Yeah.
general?
Yeah, let's start with people you actually managed.
Well, honestly, in WWF, WWE, Gonzalez. I mean, even though I just said what I said, which I meant it, but still, we had a good working relationship. Um, the size differential really set it off because I'm 5'7" and he was, literally with shoes on 8 foot tall. Can y'all see that?
Yeah, that's awesome. There you go.
And that's yeah, and that's as you see, that ain't him standing on a box or nothing. That's just, um,
Yeah.
but no, but hey, a little side note on this. This is hilarious. I was at a signing a few months ago in Florence, Alabama, and I ain't lying. This guy walked up to the table, and there was a picture of me and Gonzalez there. He goes, "How did he wrestle with them stilts on?" Oh my god! Before I could say nothing, the guy that brought me in says, "Hey, he wasn't wearing stilts. What's wrong with you?" Blah blah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the most ignorant, stupid thing I've heard in my entire life.
Nice. Nice. Did, I know that you were really close with Sid. You got an opportunity to work with him as well. Was there anybody that you looked at and you said, or maybe it was even working with as kind of the opponent of the guy you're managing where you were like, "Man, I just have really good chemistry with these people." Anything like that?
Well, I mean, me and Sid, we go back to when he was Lord Humongous in the Alabama territory. That's back in '86. Robert Fuller asked me if I knew anybody would fit that gimmick, and
Yeah.
that's when Sid was first starting out. I brought him down there. We did good with that. But see, once I got to WWF, it was all laid out basically. Here's what you're going to do. It wasn't like ad lib like we did in the territories. I had more, and this is not an insult to WWE in any way because it was very corporate and they knew what they wanted. But I had more fun and more liquidity or fluidity to my work when we called things on the fly, like in Memphis or Alabama or wherever, Kansas City, whatever. Um, so I mean, WWF, I just did what I was told and took what I was given. Whereas, like, managing a guy like Tony Falk in Memphis, the Batten twins, who I loved in Kansas City, um, Phil Hickerson in Memphis. I mean, a lot of people might not even remember those names. But those are people I really enjoyed working with. That none of them made it huge, but I learned a lot working with those guys. So when I did get to WWF and I was working with guys like Savage and other top guys, Flair and these guys, I was kind of used to it from these other guys that were good workers. They just didn't have that rocket ship boosted to their career for whatever reason.
That's another good point. You mentioned being able to just kinda call it on the fly. That seems to be more and more a lost art in wrestling.
It
Uh,
is
lot
working the lot star.
Yeah, and well, talk about that. What do you mean by working as a lost art for those who may not know?
Okay, back in the '80s when I broke in, late '70s, '80s, and before that, before I broke in, of course, there was territories all over the country. You worked. You Kansas City wrestling was different than Portland, Oregon wrestling. Portland, Oregon wrestling was different than San Antonio wrestling. San Antonio was different than Memphis wrestling, and so on and so on and so on. You had to learn to adapt to the organization you're working for and with and in. Where in WWE, it's one way or that's it. Now, the other thing is when we're all in territories, we all were seasoned and experienced by the time we got to the worldwide stage of WWE. All right. So we would have worked. We worked in Kansas City. We worked in, like I said, all the different territories. These guys don't have anywhere to work except the indies, which is maybe one day a week or twice a month or whatever. They're not working every day. So they have to go to these, like the performance center or whatever, which is nobody's fault. It's the way the business evolved. But you don't work with, they're not there anymore. You don't work with Dick Murdoch. You don't work with Dick Slater. You don't work with Jerry the King Lawler. You don't work with, I can name names from now till I'm blue in the face. You're working with other guys that are breaking in brand new, just like yourself. I don't mean yourself, you know what I mean? These guys. And so the trainers, Matt Bloom, and before that, Bill DeMott, I think Terry Taylor or whatever, are just teaching you how to do the moves. You're not learning how to work, just learn how to do the moves. And it's choreography now. Okay, I'll do spot A, then spot B, then spot C. And if you miss a spot, you're like screwed up. If you and me are working together and back in my day, if something that we're doing wasn't really working, it wasn't getting over, we'll adapt on the fly. I said, man, that ain't working. I said, come here, let me do whatever. And we'll change things up. Well, these guys don't know how to do that. And it's not their fault. It's just they didn't, like I said, I can name names till we're blue in the face. They didn't get to work with Ricky Morton one night, and then Dennis Connery the next night, and Bobby Eaton the next night, and then, veterans, like I said, Dick Murdoch or whoever. So it's like, I don't want to say the blind leading the blind, but it kind of is in a way.
Yeah. Now you did behind the scenes work as well as managing. Tell me, how hard is it to corral some of these guys back in the '90s and early 2000s?
Well, I mean, it's that was never my position. I could see where it was hard for you guys that did it. I was the one they'd come looking for because my job was to go do stuff. This
Uh-huh.
guy needs his rent a car return. This guy wants to know why I go to the. He left his whatever. He left his suitcase at the hotel room by accident. Whatever. I was doing things for folks, whereas I wasn't asking them to do things for the company or whatever. So I could see, like, one of my dearest friends in the business, Brooklyn Brawler. His job was to get people to come into the pre-tape room and do interviews.
Mm.
And yeah, it was hard for him. He said, I'm busy. I want to eat first. I'm going to go to the gym. Me, I'm like, hey, what did you need me for? Oh, Shawn Michaels, you want me to go get you something to eat? I'm on my way. I had the opposite. It wasn't hard
Yeah.
for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite story from the road? Anything like that?
Well, I always laugh at this one. There was another giant that came in for a short while named Giant Silva. He was from Brazil. He was like 7'5" or something, big, had a head the size of a gasoline can, And we, Howard Finkel asked me and Lombardi, Brooklyn Brawler, to drive him around. We said, okay. So we're getting ready to go into a restaurant. He goes, Bruno, Steve, I don't like it when people bother me. Don't tell people I'm giant. There's a 7'5" guy that's going to hit the size of a mailbox, and he's telling us don't tell. So in other words, if we don't say, "Hey, he's a giant," they'll never know. I mean,
Yeah.
so
Nice.
yeah, that's that's what I still laugh about that to this day.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Do you have a show maybe or a night favorite wrestling match that you were involved in that sticks out to you as one where you're like, "That was a special night?"
Well, I'll tell you this: when I first turned babyface in Memphis,
Mhm.
uh, I'll never forget this. It's not so much a match. When I first turned babyface, when I came back after that rough year in '88, I came back to Memphis. And my saying that I made a living off of, bought my house with, is it's like Mama says, it bees that way sometimes. Well, when I came back, when I said it on TV the first time, the whole audience just popped. I loved that. That was at the TV studio. That next 2 days later at the Mid South Coliseum in Memphis, I was on the mic. I said, it's like Mama says. Before I could finish it, the entire freaking audience said my phrase. That brought chills to me, brought tears to my eyes, and it was that right there was the most awesome feeling in the world. I knew I was home, and I knew I finally got back to where I needed to be.
Wow. That's awesome. It's great. The thing that I love hearing when I talk about this type of stuff is I love hearing when people hit rock bottom and then they climb out and they continue to just be able to hit all their dreams. A lot of people, when they would have 2 DUIs in 1 year, would think that's the end, and it sounds like you did too, but keep it moving forward and you made it.
Yeah, and I learned, from my mistakes. And unfortunately, somebody like Tammy Sitch, Sonny, didn't learn. After she got out of prison, she's driving with a half-empty bottle of vodka, speeding, killed that old man. That's just unconscionable. There's no
Mhm.
excuse for that. Man, when I get out after just 45 days, I never killed nobody or even, whatever. I I wouldn't drink and drive right now to the corner store. If I ran out of beer and I wanted some more, I would walk. It's granted, it's very close, it's right down the street.
Right.
But I mean, if I really need to go somewhere or something right now, I'd ask my neighbor to drive me because I've been drinking beer. I'm not gonna drink and drive, not even after one beer,
Right.
because a lot of people don't understand. DWI is driving while intoxicated. DUI is driving under the influence. I've only had one beer right now. But if I went out and drove my car and God forbid a little kid ran in front of me and I hit that little kid or something, even though I could drink beer all night and not get drunk, but legally, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
if I was run over a little kid or do something, guess what? DUI, under the influence. You have one sip, you're under the influence.
Mhm.
I would never, ever dare. And I encourage everybody, don't ever, ever drink and drive. Have common sense. There's too many other things to do. You got taxi cabs, you got Uber, you got Lyft, you got, depending on where you live, you have public transportation. You know what I mean? Don't
Yeah.
drink and drive. Don't drink and drive.
Yeah, unfortunately, some people don't learn that lesson, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I was fortunate I never hurt nobody.
yeah.
And then Sonny, I can't get past because what she did, I mean, after she did all that time for DUI, we just thought she'd learned her lesson. And not only was she drinking and driving, she was drinking while she was driving. She had that. I mean, like if I went to the store now, and again, I wouldn't, but I wouldn't take a beer with me and be drinking it. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's just,
Right.
uh, I
That's
can't forgive that. That's not an excuse. There's no excuse for that. None.
right.
None.
Right. Let me ask you, I ask everybody a few questions. We're about wrapped up here. You gave me an hour. I want to respect your time. So I ask everybody these questions. The first thing is, what would you say is your biggest success in life?
Owning my own home 100% outright. No mortgage, no liens, no loans. My I, it's humble. It's not a mansion. It's on a solid flat acre here in Northwest Mississippi, and owning my own home and being debt free in one. I have no debt. My home is paid for, and that and I know this is gonna sound like I'm making a joke, but I'm really not. That and surviving the '80s, because if I knew I was gonna live this long, I'd have took better care of my body and my finances back then. But thankfully, everything came
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. Sometimes, you have to go through some things to figure it out. Some of us have to learn the hard way. So on the flip side of that, what's your biggest failure in life and what did you learn from it?
Well, my biggest failure in life, no kidding, was being an idiot with the DUIs and getting in trouble in Memphis and fighting at the beer joints in Raleigh, which is northeast Memphis.
Mm.
Um, I used to be at the beer joints up there, and it was run by the organized crime people around Memphis. That they're all passed away now, but I got involved in fighting and trouble, and you know, looking back, I wish I'd never got involved with those people and got involved in those situations. And if I hurt anybody in the process that didn't have it coming, I apologize. I know one guy I beat up real bad one time, and I feel bad about it in a way. But in a way, I didn't just attack him for no reason. He actually brought it on, but I think I might have taken it a little too far. I beat him with a telephone receiver back in the
Mhm.
old payphone days. But
Right.
but what can I say? That was 40 something years ago.
Yeah. You ever find out what happened to him?
I already ended up doing time. He was not a good guy, like I was beating up the Pope, you know what I mean? But still.
Man, people don't understand, man, the '80s and wrestling, it was a Wild West kinda situation, everything I've heard is
Oh
pretty
my
wild.
god. You'd be surprised. See, I never ever got involved with the drugs. Never. Never would. You know, never would. I drank too much, and I mean way too much. I mean, I still drink my beer, but I never drink a beer before 6:30 PM. That's my rule to life. And if I don't start at 6:30, I don't drink. Like when I leave an event, 9:30 at night or whatever, I don't go get no beer. I only drink beer on my nights off, and I eat chicken wings the whole time because I'm not gonna get drunk. I'm gonna eat and keep food in my stomach. The So I won't take pain pills, and I stay in pain all the time. I get DDD, degenerative disc disease, from all the years of taking bumps, and plus the Joey wreck, I'm sure contributed to that, and,
Mm.
the only thing that relaxes me is when I drink my beer. And even when I got my neck surgery, they were trying to give me oxycodone. I said, Keep it. I don't want it." "Well, here, take this prescription anyway." I says, "Don't give it to me. I don't want it."
Well,
And I didn't take I wouldn't take
you
the I wouldn't do it.
you had a neck surgery, did you have a fusion?
No, they went through, no, I would never take that fusion because then you
Yeah,
lose your mobility. They just went in and
yeah.
scrape something or whatever. I don't
Oh,
lose
like
my mobility, yeah,
a
and
discectomy, they did a discectomy.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know all those words. I'm lucky
yeah.
I can speak English.
I'm gonna turn I'm a personal injury by trade. I do a lot of spine injury cases and stuff like that, so I'm pretty familiar with it.
Oh,
So,
you're an attorney?
yeah, I'm an attorney. Yeah. It's an attorney, podcaster, pro wrestler, I gotta wear a lot of hats.
Oh my god, are you licensed in the state of Mississippi?
I'm not, but you got a big enough case, we'll come out there.
My
So,
god. I wish
yeah.
I'd have knew you back in I had a case in Ohio about 13, 14 years ago. I could have used a good attorney because none of the Ohio attorneys would represent me because 'cause I'm from Mississippi. No kidding.
Yeah,
No kidding. Yeah, I was
I
falsely arrested. Let me tell you the story. I gotta say it. I was
okay.
falsely arrested. I had a badge, what they call an auxiliary police here in Mississippi. Okay, the chief of police or the high sheriff or whatever can give you an auxiliary police badge. You don't get out. You can't go out and arrest people or do whatever. But your auxiliary, basically, it's a thing to get out of tickets. You
Yeah.
know, but you're, but they're the state of Mississippi, and it's in statute on the books. They're allowed legally to do that. And then they can use me for like if there's a parade, I can help, keep people back or if there's a bad weather, saying there's a big bad wreck, we can keep people off the main road while the regular cops are doing what they know how to do, regardless. I got pulled over for making a left turn, and we no left turn lane in Ohio. Okay, it's
Mhm.
not a hanging offense. I've showed that badge so many times, and they say, "Oh, do it." This guy was just a hard ass. He goes, "Oh, where'd you go to the police academy? Where? Okay, what is your badge number?" All this bullshit. He was like really hardcore on it. Some bitch took me to jail, said I was impersonating a police officer.
Oh, man.
The mayor and the municipal attorney in Crenshaw, Mississippi, which is the town it was issued to me, they emailed him and said, "Look, here's the statute. We're allowed to do this." "No, we don't have that in the state of Ohio." "Well, it don't matter. I wasn't pretending to be an Ohio cop,
Right.
and I wasn't out there directing traffic or frisking somebody or pulling somebody over. I strictly showed it." They took me to jail. It was a bullshit charge. It all got thrown out. It took months.
Man.
And every lawyer and every cop friend I got said, "A cop can unarrest you." If they realize, okay, it
Mhm.
was a mistake. This guy was just a hard nosed prick. It's funny when I got to the jail, everybody was cool there. The other guys that was locked up with me and the jailers were cool and all. They said, "Who arrested you?" And I said the guy's name, which I'm not even going to say it now. But I said the guy. And they said, "Oh God, look who arrested Bruno. It was so and so." All the inmates and even the jailers knew he was a jerk. Even the other cops knew he was a jerk. Everybody, they said,
Right.
"Oh, you got the wrong one there." So it was all dropped and thrown away. So I said, "F it. I'm going to call an attorney and file a civil rights thing." No attorney in the state of Ohio would, because they don't want to get bad vibes with a guy that to deal with all the time from a guy from Mississippi. And
Yeah.
I wish I'd have found the right attorneys. I would have loved to nail his ass to the wall because it was
Yeah.
the whole thing was BS.
That doesn't surprise me sometimes, man, especially in, like, if you get in a small town like that and they all kinda deal with each other all the time. That
Right.
happens a lot. Yeah. Not so much here. Out here in Sacramento, it's a small legal community, but, it's not that small. So,
Right.
and anyhow, let me ask you the last question that I ask
Please do. I'm enjoying the hell out of this.
Yeah, yeah. The last question, I have is, one day way down the road, you're gonna pass away, there'll be a funeral, and then there'll be a eulogy. What's one thing you hope somebody says about you in your eulogy?
That I never screwed nobody over.
Mm.
That I was always nice to everyone. And also, the main thing I want them to say in my eulogy is, "Hey, wait a minute, he's moving."
Nice. I love that. I love that. That's awesome. That's a first for the Edlow podcast. Well, listen, I gotta tell you, I've run into a lot of people in the business. Nobody's ever said a bad word about you. Everybody's had great things to say. So I was really happy to be able to book this and get you on. If people wanna follow you, I know you said you don't have a lot of social media, but where can they find you if they wanna follow you?
Yeah, I don't have actually, I have 0 social media, but my dear friend Dan Matthews has a Facebook page called Downtown Bruno Bookings and Appearances. He's kinda like an agent for me. If somebody wants me to do a podcast or an appearance at a wrestling event or whatever, you can contact Dan. He sets it up. He gets a little percentage, which he deserves. And we can set it up where I'll come to your event if it works out for both of us, or I'll do your podcast, or I'll do your signing or a virtual, whatever. So
Yeah.
it's on Facebook, Downtown Bruno Bookings and Appearances. His name is Dan Matthews, close friend of mine, great guy. And I also encourage everybody to check out Pro Wrestling Mid South on Facebook. And that's one of the organizations I work for on a regular basis. Also, EPW Wrestling out of Boonville, Mississippi. I work there on a regular basis as well. So check out those promotions online. I think you'll enjoy it, especially those that live in Sacramento or Los Angeles or Seattle, whatever. That's not used to the southern
Yeah.
type of wrestling. You might enjoy it. You might
Yeah,
enjoy it.
I think I will. I'll definitely check those out. I love watching indie wrestling, especially from different areas, because it's kinda like, I mean, it's not exactly the territories, but it kinda is that you have to learn a different style. People are into different things, so that's pretty awesome. So,
Yeah, and you're a great guy. And I'm glad you reached out. And before we got on the air, we exchanged where I got your number. Please text me later so I have your number. I mean, you have my number.
yeah,
And
yeah.
please, if you want me to come back on again and do chapter 2, I'd always enjoy it. You've been nothing but a pleasure to deal with.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I really appreciate that. And guys, if you've follow Bruno and follow the podcast. We still got more exciting stuff coming up. Subscribe. And Bruno, it's been a pleasure.
Hey, and I would like to leave everybody with this. It's like Mama says, it bees that way sometimes.
Awesome. All right, man. We'll see you.
Thank you.